What's up, guys? This is Kephas.
Welcome to SBA Spotlight. In these videos, I'll be covering how well the single button assistant performs for each spec, what it does well, where it falls short, and how to get the most out of it, especially if you're looking for a lower stress or more accessible way to play. So whether you're here to relax, overcome a limitation, or just see how far one button can take you, I've got you covered. Alright, so let's talk about the single button assistant and how it's working out for survival hunters. This is going to be a bit of an interesting one. I always like to start off with the Wowhead data to kind of give a point of reference. They were getting about 80% of optimal DPS potential on a target dummy. And for melee specs, I find that to be pretty good. For hunters though, it's a little bit behind. But either way, despite its hangups, which we'll get into, the numbers are pretty good, especially when you consider everything it does, which is everything in your rotation with the exception of your main offensive cooldown, Coordinated Assault. More on that later. For starters, it will use Call Pet 1 if you don't have a pet active, and if your pet dies, it will use Revive Pet. Pretty nice. It won't use Mend Pet though, so you're going to have to keep an eye on your pet's health and use Mend Pet accordingly. Beyond that, it does pretty much everything a survival hunter needs to do in order to deal damage, which frees you up to pick about any talent that you want, but there are a few things that you want to consider. Most of your abilities have cooldowns, and it does a relatively decent job at keeping them all on cooldown. The big thing here is that it seems to really like using Kill Command, regardless of your resources. I mean, it doesn't care. You're going to see yourself maxed out on focus a lot, maxed out on spear stacks, and it's going to use Kill Command almost every time if it's available. It also likes to use Wildfire Bomb a lot. It tends to prioritize that one as well, and I think those are the biggest things that kind of hold it back a little bit. The fact that it doesn't manage your resources very well is immediately noticeable. Despite that though, it does seem to do a pretty good job at keeping all of your other abilities on cooldown, even using Fury of the Eagle and Spearhead if you take them as talents. I would notice that it would use Explosive Shot from time to time, but it rarely seems to want to use Kill Shot even with Death Blow, which isn't the worst thing because in most builds, Kill Shot really isn't that high of a priority anyway. But there are some talents that will empower Kill Shot and also increase the chance for Death Blow to activate, so if you want to go with those talents, make sure the single button is actually using Kill Shot. Speaking of talents, we should probably talk about Terms of Engagement, which basically turns Harpoon into another attack and gives it a cooldown. Even if you choose that talent, the SBA will not use Harpoon. It tends to shy away from abilities that move your character, so unless you want to manage another button, I would avoid taking Terms of Engagement as a talent. Either way, you're going to have to manage at least one other button with Coordinated Assault. You of course could choose not to take that as a talent, but I don't recommend that because it's a very powerful ability and you will experience a pretty significant drop off if you don't use it. So obviously the most straightforward thing to do would be to put Coordinated Assault on a separate button and then use it whenever it's available. It's got a 2-minute cooldown, so you're not having to worry about it too much, but it's something that you're going to have to keep an eye on. Now, if you really want to commit to one button, you could always turn to the GSE add-on. This would allow you to create a macro that would combine the single button assistant with Coordinated Assault and cycle between the two abilities. I've gone ahead and created a macro using GSE that will do just that. You can find a link to it in the description. Download the GSE add-on and then import the macro into GSE, hotkey it, and you'll be good to go. Something else I've done with this macro, and something you might want to consider even if you're not using the GSE add-on, is that I've added a no channeling conditional to the single button assistant, and this is to prevent it from interrupting Fury of the Eagle, which is a channeled ability. Because if you're channeling Fury of the Eagle and you hit the single button assistant again, it will absolutely interrupt it. So even if you're not using GSE with Coordinated Assault, you might at the very least want to create a default macro that adds this conditional to the single button assistant. I've gone ahead and created that macro as well and added it to the description. You can simply copy and paste it into the game and use it. I've also gone ahead and added use trinkets to the macro because the single button assistant will not use your trinkets, and this way it will simply use them on cooldown as you spam the macro. Don't forget, you can add any racials in there as well if you want to. Despite a few hangups and a few optional but extra steps, the single button assistant does fairly well for survival hunters, especially when you compare them to a few other melee specs. It's definitely flawed, but you should be able to do pretty much any form of content with it. And that's pretty much everything I've learned for now. But as always, I'd love to hear from you. What do you think of the single button assistant and how is it working out for you so far? Let me know in the comments. But with all that being said, I will see you guys on the next one.
Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, let me know by clicking that like button. And feel free to share it with your friends so they can enjoy it as well. And if you'd like to see more videos, you can subscribe to the channel and click on the bell icon to be notified as soon as new videos are posted. You can also follow me on Facebook, and if you'd like, you can support my work on Patreon. Links to all that stuff can be found in the description below. This is Kephas. Until next time.